The Christ Letters, with enhanced narration and text. Letter 4.3. Everyone is uniquely important. As you accept these letters as being the truth of existence and seek daily to live the guidelines which will bring each of you into harmony and contact with that which gave you being, you will surely move towards and achieve the highest spiritual goals you have set yourself at this present time. You can all rise to the point where you fully accept the truth. Work to purify your personal consciousness in order to absorb divine consciousness and become individuals filled with and radiating the power of divine consciousness in your immediate surroundings and eventually throughout the world. You are all important within your immediate environment. The parent who feels that all that is done for the family is not appreciated, who feels that he or she does not make an impact on family life, is never heard, respected, loved, who feels that outside the home or in the workplace he or she is of no consequence and will not be missed, is lacking insight. Such a person, be they male, female, father, mother, friend, worker, employer, all make an impact on their environment. If they were removed from it, there would be a hole in the fabric of the environment. There would be loss, and it would take time for that gap to be filled in with the arrival of someone else and by new activities of those left behind. A void is left by the biggest power and voice, doer of good, or the most menial worker sweeping the floor or garden paths. Each one inhabits a special place in the whole environment. Each one brings their own talent, their own character, their own way of doing things, their own impact on the people they speak to the place where they live or work. They are vital in their own niche. No one can rob a person of their importance except the person himself by his denial of his value. No matter if a person is born handicapped, they still have their unique place of importance in the family, the environment. Sometimes they occupy a greater position of importance than if they had been born whole and perfect. Their achievements arouse wonder and respect. The impact they make on the environment depends entirely on their will to be, their will to act, their will to radiate goodwill, their will to make the most of their opportunities, their will to be special for people by making other people feel better than they did before the contact took place. Every condition arises out of the will, which is exercised at all times. Some have been born with great willpower, others with less. But the moment that a person fully realizes that all willpower has been drawn from universal consciousness, and willpower can be increased by calling on one's source of being for increased willpower, so does the person begin to realize that willpower is not limited after all. It can be drawn according to the magnitude and strength of one's faith from universal consciousness itself. Each and every one of each gender, every race, nation, religion, every level of resources and income from pauper to king is equally important in the moment of now, in the moment of end of day. True differences only arise from what each person gives of himself to this moment, the next moment, and the rest of the day. A king or prime minister can be remembered for his goodness, the benefits he brought his country, or for the misery he imposed on the people. Similarly, a man born into an impoverished family who may not have developed his abilities to any high level, but who gave his all in his service to his environment, will eventually be as revered by kin and friends, and in the next life reap of his sowing as does the king or prime minister. Such a person will have contributed life to his environment, because the nature of life force is unconditional love and service, work and harmony, giving whatever is necessary for the fulfillment of the needs of another. If each day your life force is spent in just giving a cup of tea to people who are sick, then let that life force be spent in its highest form, as eager willingness to walk to the patient with a warm smile and hand over the tea with kindness, goodwill, and a desire for the healing of the person. In such a way, a tea giver can become a radiant medium of healing and upliftment. The more frequently the tea giver calls silently for an inflow of divine consciousness into her own consciousness, the greater and more penetrating will be her radiated life force to the patient. The sick person may not be aware of what is happening, but a room of sick people attended by such a tea giver or carer will recover more swiftly than those who receive their tea from one who hands it to them without a glance of recognition, without a word, without a kindly thought. No, each job, each moment can be sacred and beautiful, radiant with the inflow of divine consciousness, life force, uplifting, healing to the self and others. If a person takes time to realize he or she is a channel of divine consciousness, which is itself all healing, all protection, all fulfillment of a person's every need. One person, even one who cleans the floors and empties bedpans, possessing such a realization, can enter a room and become the most important, perhaps the only, distributor of good amongst 6 people handing out bedpans. Such a person can leave behind a legacy of increased strength in every patient. Every single person who realizes that from their eyes is radiated potent life force to those at whom the vision is directed, can know that their glance, that penetrating look, that smiling gaze has benefited the one who received it. For everything we, yes, you and I, the Christ, think and do is an act of consciousness, and consciousness is life force. With the activity of our minds, yours and mine, we shape our consciousness, our life force into different forms which will bless or curse the environment. The only difference between you and Mohammed and myself, known on earth as Jesus, is the kind of thought and feeling that Mohammed and I radiate to others. We both radiate life-giving consciousness energy to the world. What are you radiating in your world? Remember again how, during a time of great stress during my time in Palestine, I cursed the fig tree, and it shriveled to its roots. Not long afterwards, I was also roundly cursed by Roman soldiers and Jewish priests alike. I too was shriveled to my roots before I died on the cross. Beware what you hand out to others. Make certain that you would like to receive the same. A cup of water handed to someone with love can bless and uplift that person, or, if handed out with ill feeling, can make the recipient feel small and of no account, a little weaker and more depressed. What part are you playing in your environment? Are you honored and recognized for the love and goodwill you distribute the moment you set foot in your workplace? Have you caught a vision of what is really important in life? Have you set yourself a spiritual plan, a spiritual goal to be achieved before you pass on into the next beautiful dimension? Will you be sufficiently purified and committed to unconditional loving to move into the higher levels of spiritual consciousness? Or will your goals still be those of your earth plane? Ask yourself, what part do you really want to play in your environment? What is your spiritual destination? Just as importantly, what are your attitudes towards other people? Superiority and exclusivity, or an awareness that most people are doing the best they can with whatever talents they possess? To reach your full potential, you must realize that neither position nor wealth can limit the power you exercise in the world. Your only limitations are your attitudes and thoughts arising from your attitudes. The life force radiated from the mind of king, prime minister, general, or lowly servant or soldier is equally powerful and productive of good in the environment, providing each one disciplines his thoughts to become attuned to the spiritual frequencies of unconditional love and divine consciousness. Furthermore, such thoughts enter and enhance the world consciousness force itself, each person adding their spiritual thought to world spiritual thought strengthens it. The only factor which determines the degree of imparting of life or sickness propensities is the level of realization and spiritual understanding that a person has drawn from the source of being. Therefore, the man who happily removes the neighborhood refuse with a good heart and a blessing on all whom he meets is a bright light shining in his little world, and the money-grasping, ill-tempered man of wealth and substance emerging from his mansion to go to his office is a pool of darkness which can be felt negatively by those who venture near him. No matter what you do, what you possess, the position you occupy in life, there is no limit to your potential development for good. There is no limit to the potential grandeur and glory of your being. Your only limitation is the amount of time and energy you are prepared to devote to meditating on your source of being and opening your human consciousness to enter into it and receive it into your mind. Therefore, religious leaders, revere your congregations, because you do not know what spiritual insight and progress is taking place in the minds of those who may appear to be very humble and of no account socially. Religious leaders, cease your criticism of other religions, because you do not know the heights of spiritual knowledge, insight, and enlightenment their adherents may have attained. Religious leaders, realize that you yourselves are only as spiritually advanced as is your personal perception of reality.